You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
To another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night right here on all your favorite social media accounts at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're also available for download on your favorite podcast catcher app on Thursdays at midnight. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian,
and Keith Cheatham, Mr. Cheatham. How are you all doing tonight, fellas?
Doing well.
Oh.
Well.
Well, both of you all kind of have some
Very
libations in front of you.
Live what?
Libations.
Libations?
Libation. Isn't that
Libations.
is that the right terminology?
I
think
don't
it
know.
is.
Yeah.
I think that's the right word.
Libations.
Libations.
Some alcohol.
Yes.
Keith's a little bit more straight.
Straight to the point.
Neat.
Straight. Yep. Neat. There it
Neat and
is.
straight.
And then Sean's got his mixed in with some Java.
Mm.
Yes.
Some good old coffee. You know, I've never tried that, I don't think. I've
Bourbon
never
and
tried
coffee?
like bourbon and coffee.
It
Oh,
is,
yeah,
it's
I have.
delicious.
Pretty good.
Mhm.
How much
It's
did you
good.
put in there? About a shot?
I did about a half a shot.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
that's enough. And yeah, actually, that's what Keith is drinking neat over there.
Yeah.
You care to tell us what kind it is?
New Riff? Yeah, it was called New Riff.
New
I was
Riff.
looking it up. It's not bad.
Said from
I mean,
Newport.
It's
up
in
there
Newport.
Kentucky?
Yeah, Newport, Kentucky. I'd had not actually even heard of it before. Definitely looks like a microbrew unique to up there. The proof even was handwritten on the bottle.
I mean, it's bourbon
so-
country here in Kentucky.
But I mean,
so
it's good. It's very
I
good.
feel like there's new barrels popping up all the time. What if it's all just the same distributor and they just
New
buy the
barrels.
barrels?
It's
Said it's pretty young. It was only 4 years old.
Yeah, 4 year aged in the
Yeah.
cask. It's peppery and got the caramel notes I taste. It also says it has orange zest. I don't get that, but definitely the pepper and the caramel.
New Riff is their flagship whiskey.
Really?
Actually, I can smell the orange, so
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the citrus notes and the smell
Yeah.
that's supposed to light up your senses.
mayhap.
Well, y'all are gonna be a little bit juice. I'm just drinking water over here. It's good stuff. Keeps you
What
alive.
aqua? Yeah, being healthy. He's not killing his innards.
No, I already ate my dinner, and it's like now it's just liquids for the rest of the
Ate
night.
my dinner,
This
killed
is
my
liquid.
inner.
Hey, that's it.
This is liquid.
It's portable food.
It's
It's bread.
liquids for the rest of the night. These are
Yeah,
liquids.
they
That's
are.
right.
Back in the day,
Yep.
that was portable bread.
Well, that was beer.
well, yeah, that's
Portable
true.
carbohydrates.
I say, yeah, there's not much.
That's
in that.
corn.
That's just sugar.
It's
pretty much.
corn syrup.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you're gonna get out of that.
Yeah.
Nothing real healthy about bourbon or any kind of liquor.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
As
Make
far
you
as
feel a little
calories
funny.
go, they're not too bad. I mean, bourbon has some calories, but
we'll see if it impacts the show at all tonight. And your all's
I
take
doubt
on
it.
the
I
movie
might
that
throw
we're
up or
reviewing.
something.
I don't know. Hopefully,
I don't do bourbon, so
Oh,
you know I don't like bourbon, but I like it. You know,
and coffee.
coffee, especially Cedar Grove coffee. It
Cedar
is.
Grove is good.
hitting good.
I'm glad that they finally. Well, they didn't really get me a bag. It was Sean basically went in there and held them up
yeah.
at gunpoint.
He said, "Give me your coffee."
It's been too long. Give me one of those bags, and they gave me one of someone else's bags.
handed it right over.
That's it.
And then that person showed up like an hour later and was like, "Where's my coffee?"
Mr. Burns.
Oh,
His name was on the bag.
was it Mr. Burns?
Mr. Burns
Poor
was on the
Mr.
bag.
Burns.
But no, thankfully, it's good stuff. I'm glad I got my bag, and it lasts about 2 months. It's
Yeah.
a 5-pound bag.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
But drinking coffee on a regular,
$60 for 60 days.
It's not
So,
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
That's not
though.
bad.
That's good.
It's a $1 a day.
well,
not-
a dollar a
You
day.
can't get a coffee for $1 a day.
No, you
that's
can't.
dirt cheap.
I'm telling
Anymore,
you.
it's like $3.
And not good
Yeah. It's
coffee.
ridiculous.
That's at McDonald's.
insane.
Yeah, that's what I say. You go to
Starbucks
McDonald's
is
to get like a
$7.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and I still wouldn't even call that good coffee.
No. Nope. I mean, you can get their black already
burnt
brewed, but
coffee.
it's like $3 or $4.
Yeah.
Even at Scooters.
Yeah.
You go to Scooters.
Even a scooter.
I'd rather go to Scooters than Starbucks.
I love it. Even 7B.
Scooters.
Or whatever it was. Is
Yeah,
it
you got
7B?
Scooters. 7B.
Isn't that one of the
Oh,
new
it's one of the drive-throughs now. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
7B or 7D or something like
It's some-
that?
It's one over there by the theater. They have one.
We got one in Shepherdsville.
There's one that's in Indiana too.
There's one on. It's in Hillview in
Yeah,
Preston.
It's got like the blue LED lights on it.
Yeah.
Well, enough about coffee.
Yeah.
We're
I
gonna
don't
get
know.
livened up here and talk about movies.
We'll talk about zombies. is
Movies,
what I want to talk about.
zombies.
We're back to 2 reviews this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of
So
course,
gotta
we
get
got
to
our zombie review. We kind of went a different route. Oh, it's already hitting.
It burned coming up too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's just you.
That's what we're in
It's on the
for.
show. If I burp into the mic, that means it's good.
It's
It's
that's
like I'm in Iraq.
some place it's considered
That's
a
right.
compliment.
In the Middle East, if you burp, that's well
it.
done. Yeah.
But no, we back on our zombie movies. We got not back on. We had one last week, but we've had a different iteration, different genre.
Yeah.
Dip into, different one. We had the actual full on kind of horror aspect coming from 28 Days Later.
It's kind of a new take on the zombie franchise.
Comedy version with
Shaun
of the Dead.
Yep.
Shaun.
And then this
Spelt
one
differently.
is more of an action horror that we've
Yes.
done this day.
Going back more than 10 years now. World War
know.
Z with Brad Pitt.
That's right.
When I look at the age of movies now, like I'm
crazy.
like, man, like being a kid thinking like, man, those movies were old, and
Yeah.
now I realize that the movies we like are like kids think are old.
Well, we were just
Yes.
talking
Yeah.
about Metal Gear Solid.
yeah.
And the fact that MGS3 came out 20 years ago next month. It's insane. I was a freshman in high school when that came
say
out.
that new one's that they're saying that's legit.
But that's what we were
remake,
talking about.
yeah.
We were like, is there going to be news that drops? Maybe they'll drop it on the 20th anniversary. No, they won't.
Look at Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings is to kids now what Star Wars was to me as a kid.
Which
Like
is
that's the same
nuts.
age gap.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, that's crazy.
And and those movies still hold up, which shows you just how amazing they are.
Yeah.
And then we've also got our latest review, the big
Yeah.
one on the block. Smile 2 came out. Actual horror movie that came out in the month of October.
yeah. What did we think of it? It's doing pretty well for itself.
I think that's the one we're going to start out with.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I think we're starting out with the big one on the block. So
okay.
What
well,
did we
let's
think of
get into it.
the sequel, which we also reviewed? Catch that review, the old one.
Yeah. Read
the
the first
original
one.
on
2022, so 2 years ago.
our website at redmoonproductions.com. But here is the sequel, Smile 2.
You can't keep a good horror franchise down. Michael always returns, and Jason always lives. There's always a new haunting or possession for amateur ghost hunters and seasoned priests alike. Here's looking at you, Russell Crowe. And sometimes they come back. Or, in the case of this week's latest new horror sequel, sometimes they smile back. After the hit that was Smile from breakout horror director Parker Finn, Finn returns to write and direct the sequel, Smile 2. Picking up 6 days after the first film, the movie opens to a brilliantly chilling cold open, showing us what's become of Joel from the first film and connecting the chain of victims from the first movie to those haunted by the unnamed Smile monster in this film. Smile 2's story proper picks up with Sky Riley, played by Naomi Scott. Sky is a famous pop star and recovering addict, who recently survived a car crash that killed her actor boyfriend Paul Hudson. Left traumatized and with a long scar on her abdomen, Sky struggles with the pressures of fame while dealing with PTSD and her overbearing mother, who's concerned more with Sky's fame than well-being. Sky's psychological state, already fragile, begins to spiral completely once haunted by the Smile entity, leaving Sky fighting to discern what is and isn't real as she seeks a way to stop the entity. Smile 2 is a smart and chilling psychological horror film that improves greatly upon its predecessor. While the themes and scare tactics are much the same, the story, characters, and overall presentation of both the psychological and horror aspects raise the bar. Smile 1's lead, Rose, is that of a therapist treating patients in a psych ward. While the first 2 tries to blur what's real and what isn't, the idea of a psychiatrist's descent into madness, while interesting, was never as effective as Smile 2. Sky is a pop singer under the stereotypical pressures of the industry, on top of drug use and PTSD, is a trope seen in other films, including other horror films and psychological thrillers. Yet, while Smile 2's setup may not be wholly unique, What Parker Finn does with it is smart, chilling, and far more effective than both Smile 1 and similar psychological films such as Black Swan. Naomi Scott giving a fantastic performance as Skye, with Rosemary DeWitt as her overbearing mother, Elizabeth, and Dylan Julia as best friend Emma. The characters and their relationships are well developed and acted, making for more engaging characters than the first movie as well. Parker Finn has shown solid growth as a director. Visually, Smile 2 feels much more unique than the first. The kills are often more gruesome, though none felt like they went too far or felt out of place. The deaths themselves are not just shocking gore on its own either. Solid suspense and visual moments of people and visions behaving in unsettling ways build suspense and unnerve you leading up to the gorier bits, creating a much scarier and effective horror experience. Top it all off with an excellently done bit of practical effects for the finale, showcasing a fantastic bit of occult pulp horror that may be hit or miss to those depending on how you felt about the first movie's ending, though I myself thoroughly enjoyed the spectacle. Smile 2 is a sequel that didn't need to exist, and was one I never felt I wanted. That said, unlike the recently released Joker 2, Parker Finn gives us a movie that proves why it should exist, improving on its predecessor in every way. I don't know how long the Smile franchise will have legs, as I still think it's a premise that can only be stretched so far. That said, Smile 2 is a welcome sequel that makes me want to binge it and the first again back to back. I give Smile 2 3 out of 4 stars.
Well, 3 out of 4 stars.
Yes.
What's crazy is we gave the first one 3 out of 4 stars, and I was just saying during the review that I actually think this one is better, and I would probably... Uh-oh, Keith's got it. Oh, no, that means one of us is going to die at the end of this, Sean.
Only if he kills himself in front of us.
Oh, that's true. Don't do it, Keith.
Smash my face in with the iPad.
Hey, he just
that
wants a
would
new
be
iPad.
one way.
Yeah.
He's just going to break it
it's
so
like,
he can get a new one.
It's like he was possessed.
You know, Tim Apple just comes through the window there.
Tim
It's like,
Apple.
here you go. But no, I thought, honestly, I was very pleasantly surprised with this. I think I would probably knock the first movie down to 2.5. This one gets a solid 3. Not only was entertaining, everything was amped up from the first movie in a good way, from the way scenes were shot. The opening scene, and actually I think Keith and I were discussing it coming out of the theater. Sean, you had to see the screener, the screener version that we were sent by the studio.
Sure.
But no, we were discussing it walking out, and we were talking about how at first we couldn't really put together the beginning, and we thought it was like a cold open that just kind of set things off. And then you looked it up on IMDb, and we realized,
I hadn't watched the first one since I saw it in theaters, so
which tells you how good the first one was.
Yeah, I forgot like that guy was like the detective from the first film, so I was like, okay, that's how it connects. Like
right
after he finds whatever happened with her in the house at the end of the first one, it jumps over to this with the 6 days later.
Yep. Okay. And so it was done really well after piecing it together, and then how it springboarded, but how this one has no real connection other than that linchpin connecting it, which makes sense for the type of anthology kind of series.
But it's cool because you could see the connection of like he goes to the drug dealers, and then when she gets picked up, it's because that's where he got his drugs from. So I'm like, it all fits together, and I really liked that. Like it was well thought out. Agreed.
And I will say that it was too one of those situations where all the aspects of from the jump scares to the way the camera shots were done, the cinematography, the acting, it was just like everything was ratcheted up. If the first one felt like your stereotypical, I didn't even want to compare it to like Insidious or what was another one that kind of in that same vein, The Conjuring, like. Those were good, but they all felt generically, in my mind, like what you would suspect a typical horror film to, that was springboarded off of, or to create a new franchise would feel like.
Conjuring 1 and 2, I would say, are better than Smile 1. Smile 1 is better than Insidious, that's just how I'd rank them.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. But that's the thing, that the first one felt that generic.
Yeah, it was. You've seen a lot of it before, and I felt like it fell apart at the end. And that's
the first one?
Yeah. And that's not necessarily a gripe against the creature in of itself as much, even though I wasn't as fond of that in the first one. I actually liked it a lot more in the second one. I don't know
spoil
what they.
anything.
Yeah, I'm not going to. I just the way the second one ended, the way the plot all came together by the end, and then when you get like that moment that's similar to the first one. I guess because I was already expecting it, but it had a good touch of like that practical pulp horror that I thought looked better than it did in the first one.
Yeah. And this one just had a slower burn.
Yeah.
That in terms of building up the tension and the effects of what is being spread, this curse, more or less. I thought this one just built it up way better than the first movie in terms of, her erratic behavior and her kind of falling into. Plus, again, something else, and Sean, I'm going to let you jump in here because you haven't said anything about how you felt about the film. But I liked that in this film, she's not completely innocent.
Yeah.
She has her own demons already, no pun intended. And so I think that it just felt, realistic, the situations that she's in and the scenarios that she's in, but also there were certain things that it was like, okay, she's not a terrible person, but she's also not, this innocent person that you'd hate to see this happen to.
There's a thing with that I really like, but I do want to let Sean be able to talk too.
No, I mean, most of what you all have said, I completely agree with. I give it 3 also. I liked it better than the first, which is really funny because I thought going into the podcast that I was going to be the minority.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like we all liked it better than the first. But the main reason that I enjoyed this movie so much more than the first was the first movie was just a horror film, and it was new. It's a new story. It's something that I don't feel like, even with Talk to Me, like that one's kind of a new. It's not just a repeat of something we've already seen. Smile was something fresh, but at the same time, it's just a generic horror movie.
Yeah. Where
I felt like this one, if you took the curse out, there's still a great story there just about the downward spiral of a young girl thrusted into Hollywood,
100%.
or thrusted into the celebrityism, and how her mom is pushing her. And I think that's just a story in of itself, that you said she has demons of her own, but I even though she's not entirely innocent because of the things that she's done in the past, it's also one of those things where you can kind of tell that at a young age she was shoved into that world.
Oh, it's
and
tragic.
That's what caused her to end up where she is.
It's relatable,
Yes.
especially with modern stars. Like we've
Absolutely.
seen child stars nowadays, and how like the
Yeah.
descent each one of them have had. A lot of them have had. And it is similar, and I really like that too. Like you said, the fact that it is just as a straight story, psychologically good, like well made, outside of the horror aspect. I mentioned in the review, I kind of knocked Black Swan a little, and I told Brandon over the weekend I had watched a movie called Perfect Blue, which is a Japanese animated film, but it's where Aronofsky got the idea for Black Swan. Pretty much, everybody says he stole it, and it's spot on, but it's really good. And there's similarities in the fact that character in that movie is a pop star. And what I love about both, that Black Swan I just felt like completely gets wrong, is that psychological aspect of what's real, what isn't real, and the fact that they're all related to the internal psychosis the characters already have. Like everything in this film is like she already has like that she could have gone crazy on her own just from everything that happened.
By the end of the film, even without the demonic or presence or curse or whatever, by the end of the film, she's Britney Spears.
Yes.
I'm just sitting here. That's what it literally came to mind, was this crazy makeup all messed up, half-dressed, dancing to weird music with a butcher knife in her hand, Britney Spears. That's who this girl turned into. And it's like a real-life version of what we've seen. And I don't feel like Hollywood likes to shine a lot of light on the fact that happens to young people.
If they do it like Aronofsky, where it's this again, it's the pompous, like, oh, this is abstract and art, and look at how Natalie Portman's going crazy, but it doesn't actually reflect, I think, the reality.
It doesn't reflect the problem or the root of the problem.
I was going to say, they glorify the fact that, in the somewhat, to go on the opposite end of that in a good movie, I would say Whiplash. Does it in such a, like, the tortured artist of how far is too much for something that even you would, perceive as love. Is it a love for the act of it, or is it a love of, this is ridiculous to the point of, self-harm and gone too far, a passion taken too far. Whereas I would also argue that, like you said, in the bad way, you often see it as like, oh yeah, this tortured artist, but look at the art and the beauty of it, and it's trying to leave this question to the audience of, but can you really, if this is what it led to, isn't it worth it? There's these highbrow ways of actually kind of blurring the lines of what morality should be instilled upon the viewer. Again, because part of me showing up to enjoy the movie or watch the movie, rather than just be entertained, if you're going to leave me with some questioning, it's going to be erring on the side of, what would be what you would expect your audience to already kind of internally struggle with, or at least internally know. And that's where I feel like so much of our current day culture, especially in artistic fashion, it's just become so obtuse and so
everything's abstract.
Exactly, so abstract. Another thing I wanted to point out that was really good in this film too, to hit on that without spoiling too much, because you're right, all of the things you all just said are 100% right, but there's a speech that the mother gives to her when she's on her last leg, and you're thinking, okay, the mother is the cause for this, but at the same time, her motivations, I think rightfully so, maybe not in that given moment are warranted, but her outburst, it's real, it's authentic. You have an entire industry that is built around you. Like, this isn't just some up and coming artist. Like, the way we meet Sky Riley in the film is she's
already famous. Yeah,
she is famous. She's coming off of a drug bender. She's trying to rekindle her relationship with her fans. So it's like her reputation is already somewhat scarred when we meet her, and you have the mother who's sitting here saying, I have given up my life to support you and what your dreams are. Now, you could sit here and say, oh, well, but she's dragging her through this. But how much of this was also her leaving it up to her daughter, and her daughter saying, no, I want to keep going. I want to keep going. I want to do this.
Yeah.
There was enough there. Again, this is what a good director and a good storyteller does. They don't just say, good person good, bad person bad.
They leave you on the fence.
They create a full, well-rounded character for you to understand and see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with them or not, you can at least understand and sympathize with their motivations to the point that, it makes a deeper character.
Yeah.
And that's what I ultimately loved about this whole film. Even her friend that's with her.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like there's parts where she's screaming at him, and I'm like, anybody who's in their right mind would just be like, all right, bye, deuces, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
No, he sticks beside her, and because he's like, he kind of one, it's kind of this loner, like, I've been by your side, but I want to support you, and ultimately maybe I feel rejected by society. That's why I'm by your side. And at the same time, I also know the road you've been down. It's just a lot of layers to any good story is what makes it better than, like you said, just the premise on the surface level. And this is what that movie had going for it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, definitely far better than what I expected walking into. And ultimately, I will say it was like just a huge improvement over the first movie. I mean, Parker Finn, tremendous job on your sequel. I mean,
it's not. I wasn't expecting the sequel to a movie like Smile to be that good. I was thinking, this is the one where they'll just lose the whole thing,
right?
And of course, you're thinking, oh well, there's going to be a three-peat or something like that.
If it's successful,
and even the way that the second film ends opens it up to a completely different kind of third movie.
True. Yeah.
Which is what I liked that, because it's like, this entity wants to be in as many bodies as it can,
right?
And it gets the opportunity to potentially do that, and I like it. But I will say too, in the first movie, and you mentioned the actual form of this entity and how that kind of waits to the end of the movie, and I'm glad that they did that again with the second film, because I don't feel like I thought going into it, okay, now that we've seen it, in the second movie they're going to show it a bunch, and the fact that they didn't, and that it just is shown kind of towards the end of the film, I appreciated that, because it was something, it looked way better in the second movie.
Agreed.
But a lot less CG.
Well, and it was weird because I felt like the payoff was better in the second movie because, again, all of the ways in which they show the spiral of not just her, but the people that have been affected by it.
Yeah.
They show, I mean, you could easily say, well, but you're also going back to, the first movie and what it's already kind of set the foundation. And I would disagree. I would say that you could easily pick up Smile 2 and not have seen the first one, which, again, good move on just based on the fact that even though it's called Smile 2, you can approach it and not know what happened in the first movie.
The whole idea of the entity is explained again in the second movie, so
and
you
I
don't
actually
have to.
think the payoff, like you're talking about with the creature reveal, is done in such a way that after everything you've seen and how it's illustrated in terms of what form it takes, the way in which it's described, all of the illusions that are created throughout the film to showcase its, demonic presence, I think the payoff is actually, that much better in this film when you see it, and much more approachable, in an odd way to say, or much more digestible to take in versus the first movie where it just kind of came out of nowhere. And I was like, okay, this was a psychological thriller where there was really nothing abstract until the very end. Yeah. And then you're just like, okay, it just kind of took you by storm a little bit too much. It was too jarring. Whereas this one, I think it teeters on that edge of chaos so well throughout the film that, you just, by the time the end of the film comes, you're like, oh, that's even more. In the same way, I think I told Keith walking out of the theater, it reminded me of what you get at the end of Alien Romulus. And what I appreciated that art design. And I think that's another thing that I'm glad to see movies going back to, and that's organic special effects, like actual practical special effects that you can tell are not CG. It just adds a visceral, feeling to the movie as a whole, that it just makes it that much better.
Well, it has an actual physics and weight to it that do make it feel right. It's not like when you're looking at, like we have mentioned, Marvel's CGI blobs or the prequel trilogies. Like, these are movies that, will actually hold up better because you're not going to have to worry in 20 years that, the practical effect is going to look fake, because it's going to look the same as it always has because it was practical.
Yeah.
Right. Alrighty, guys. I think that pretty much covers it. Oh, crap.
Oh, my.
I just spoiled something that's been up there. I thought I still had the review for Smile 2, and I threw up World War Z. People already know. They already know what we rated it.
They know the star rating.
They know the star rating. Well, you know what? If you already know the star rating, I guess we should just dive into the review.
Yeah, go ahead. Throw it out there.
Here's our review of World War Z.
The Living Dead continue to haunt our Halloween-themed reviews. After rage-infected chimps and laughs in a British pub, we turn to something a bit more action-oriented, that chillingly feels familiar after the events of the past few years. World War Z, directed by Mark Forster and based on the popular novel of the same name from author Max Brooks, World War Z, in my opinion, may be the most real-to-life adaptation of what a zombie outbreak could look like. Often films thrust viewers into a post-apocalyptic world as it follows the survivors left in the world trying to make their way. World War Z's protagonist, Jerry Lane, played by Brad Pitt, is a former UN investigator. Wasting no time, the film gets into the action fairly quick. After a chilling opening montage and a sentimental scene of Jerry's home life, Jerry and his family are immediately thrust into chaos as zombies swarm the Philadelphia traffic he and his family are sitting in. Forced immediately into survival mode, they are picked up by the UN Deputy Secretary General. Jerry is then reluctantly recruited into traveling the globe to investigate the outbreak of what is believed to be a virus in hopes of developing a cure. World War Z is unique in showcasing a zombie story from the point of view of governments and those in charge. As the world watched nations respond to COVID, an event that would happen close to 7 years after this film's release, it's easy to see how spot on and similar the responses to a global pandemic are. Likewise, the film's solution and how they buy time to develop a cure are also unique amongst the zombie films I have seen. The movie's story structure plays out closer to more generic action disaster films, the likes of which we've seen from Roland Emmerich. It still maintains solid moments of tension, with an eerie soundtrack that adds to the few moments of suspense. World War Z isn't outright scary, but it still has some good moments of horror. While structurally the story is stereotypical of disaster films, World War Z does at least offer much more depth than anything Emmerich has made outside of the first Independence Day. Character motivations are realistic and believable, and while I felt the film lacks a lot of emotional gravitas, the action set pieces and story as they unfold the mystery around the virus and how to cure it always kept me intrigued. World War Z notably has been panned by many fans of the novel, as it's not a secret it barely resembles the book outside of the premise. Having never read the book, the story we get on film is still well done, and I felt if anything, the movie is just a tad too generic at times, something I would attribute to its director Mark Forster, whose filmography has been hit or miss, with great films such as Finding Neverland and Stranger Than Fiction, and also includes perfectly adequate yet safely made films like Christopher Robin and A Man Called Otto. Knowing Forster's potential, I felt World War Z could have landed more of a gut punch, but perhaps, based on its set pieces, it was never meant to be such a film in the first place. As is, World War Z is great for anyone looking to scratch that zombie itch while seeing solid horror action set pieces. Similar to Resident Evil, the blending of action and government involvement makes for a compelling watch, without the camp and over-the-top fantasy nature of the Resident Evil franchise. World War Z won't land for everyone and only received a lukewarm reception from critics, while being much more favored by audiences. Don't expect too much reinventing of the wheel, but it is a solid ride all the same. I give World War Z 2.5 out of 4 stars.
Well, there's the review. It matches up.
Now-
2.5.
now
Maybe
people can hear
we
it.
could have changed it.
We could have.
You never know. We could have changed it.
I was
just
on the
lickety
fence
split.
a little bit with it.
I was
'Cause, I mean, I did like it. I don't know. It reminded me of a lot of other things as
Yes.
well, which isn't necessarily bad because I
Yeah.
mean it did a good job with everything. Like I don't mean to bash in that way. I just felt like it wasn't as original.
Now,
as
is
some
part of
the
that
other
coming from
ones
the
we've
fact
reached.
that this is 10 years removed from when it came
No,
out?
because the things it reminds me of are older than it is. So I can't
There you go.
say that if I had watched it and be like, oh, this reminds me of something that came out a few years ago, I'd be like, well, that's not its fault. It did it first. But I mean, it did remind me of other things from like even 28 Days. I mean, obviously some things like Romero I expect because everybody pays homage to him. So I don't really knock it for things like that. Even some stuff in Walking Dead, which was kind of concurrent. It started
No, it did.
It started
I felt like
3 years before this, so it's not like it
you
had
even
a
had
huge span.
Warm
but
Bodies before this. Not saying they comparable, but
that would have been around the same time frame.
The zombie craze was all the rage.
Oh, yeah.
iZombie was out.
What I really like about this, though, and what I hear a lot of people hate because of the book, is the fact that it is from the perspective, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go
ahead. Was the perspective of the government response, and that it is from the UN and from him being a UN investigator. And the fact that it reminds me a lot of actually the COVID response, which I mentioned in the review, which is crazy to see. It's like, yeah, that's how governments will behave. And the fact that it just was, you don't see a lot of the government winning. Like, yeah, they get overrun at first, but the whole idea is that I feel like if a zombie apocalypse ever happened, this is the most realistic version of how the government would handle things.
Yeah.
They wouldn't like most shows are about an apocalypse, so of course the governments have to be wiped out. But I feel like people persevere a lot better than what most series would give them credit for. It's just the fact that if you're making a zombie apocalypse show like Walking Dead,
So you're saying
you got to get rid of the
government would actually help?
No,
Well, I
not the government heads.
I thought
the
the
military
government-
will help.
I thought the government in this film, I thought, did better than I think our actual government
Agreed,
would.
100%.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
I felt like that was the one takeaway. I was like, this is what people idealistically would want
Yeah.
a government to react like in a scenario such as this. I think we saw how inept and how unprepared they are and how power hungry they are during the wake of what we experienced with COVID.
Yeah.
To the extent that they're complete buffoons and they don't know how to handle anything on that kind of scale. So this would be way bigger than any scale. I actually thought it was interesting because talk about a 10-year difference. No way in hell, whether it's like this in the book or not, would they ever pay that kind of respect to Israel on the big screen. I ever think, especially nowadays.
The book might give them, I don't know, more credit.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know about how the book handles it, but
The
in
book doesn't
movie,
have like a singular like lead character. From my understanding, it's excerpts of how different governments and
The
different
world
things
responds
Yeah,
to
it's
it,
basically
yeah.
how everyone across the
Okay.
world is
Yeah.
responding to a zombie apocalypse. So it's more the idea from the novel that the movie takes, but it makes its own story with the because when you're making a movie, you have to have some character for somebody to relate
Yeah.
to. You
Yeah.
can't just jump from
And-
here's this
and
government,
here's
here's
the
this
thing.
government.
I mean, as the most part, like I agree. I think as a whole, I teetered on 2.5, 3 stars. I thought the premises were good. I felt like it. I don't know, and we kind of jokingly said, we don't know if this is Damon Lindelof's fault because just I mean, whether Lost was Lost was already well over by this point. But all the thing, it seems like he's an idea guy who comes up with, certain things that are like, okay, that would be like, I liked the, again, spoiler alert, it's been 10 plus years.
Yeah,
it's old.
Seen it.
But I like the idea of the solving of, the cure for the disease. And it's like, I felt like there could have been a little bit more breadcrumb trail leading you to your own understanding of how even Brad Pitt arrives at this conclusion of, oh, it seems like the dead aren't affecting their they tried to
they do the show don't tell a couple of times where he observes things.
Right, but I think the observations are lackluster. I don't think they're as detailed as they're not as they're not as descriptive as I would like them to be. I don't want you to have hand-holdy moments. I definitely don't want exposition in there.
Yeah.
But that's actually what they rely on. They get to the end, and when he finally gets to the WHO in England, it's like he immediately explains to them what the cure, he believes the cure is. And then, of course, thus goes the final act of the film of proving it. I thought the set pieces were okay, but that's the thing. So much of this film I felt like was just, I know there's a lot to cram into. Honestly, it's a 2-hour movie. It's not short, but it starts off in the action, the thick of the action right off the bat, which is a good thing. That's a plus. But it also leaves little time for, I think, a real thorough. I mean, again, talk about something where juxtaposed with Smile 2. Smile 2 took a simple concept and found ways to be so, descriptive and intentional about each scene, setting a pace for the movie and also setting in what you expect or what you can come to be entertained by and watch throughout the film. You actually get a feel for, okay, this is a smaller nugget of that we're going to extrapolate on and all these different facets and show you the slow degradation of this character. This one is more like a 30,000 foot view from all these different perspectives, yet they try to put this central character, Brad Pitt, and his family at the heart of it. And it's just kind of lackluster in the sense that I'm like, I don't even really care about the family aspect halfway through. I'm more or less, it's just an action set piece film and, with zombies in it. And then even then I was like, okay, well, they're not even that great. They're kind of a flash each time you go from one area to the next, there's like one action set piece and they're all filmed kind of chaotically to the point that they don't seem like they're very well designed or they were put together in any creative fashion, that I was just like, oh, that was like, I think of the Casino Royale scene at the beginning with the parkour, like all of that seemed intentional. It seemed very well executed and planned out. Like, this is why you're coming to the theater to see, the next major Bond. This one just felt like a generic zombie action flick that I was like, okay, the hordes of zombies are cool, but you saw those shots in the trailers. And even if you didn't see them in the trailers and you're seeing them for the first time in the movie, they're literally maybe like 2 or 3 minutes of the whole film. You don't get much time there. And I'm like, that's where, if you're pulling me in with that kind of appetite and then you don't satisfy me, it's like you leave me left wanting more. And that was kind of what I felt from this film.
I feel like it like Keith said, there's definitely, it borrows from a lot. I also see things that came after it borrow from it, though. The swarm idea,
Days Gone.
Days Gone definitely borrowed from that. But then again, the fast-moving zombies that run and can push their way through doors and that's definitely borrowed from 28 Days. And we talked about how 28 Days Later was one of the first, if not the first, zombie movie. Or at least theatrical zombie movie that shows them move at such a pace and really, I mean, they're more than just crawling and dragging zombies like in The Walking Dead and some other in the Romero films. I would say, just like with Smile 2, though, what I enjoyed most about the film was less of the zombies and more of the crisis management that Brad Pitt has to do. I think, again, his job in the movie, which is kind of vague, but it still fascinated me, that his job is to go to places in the world and monitor these crises and figure out a way for other countries, especially the United States, to respond if that were to ever happen to us. And the fact that he is so calm and collected in the moments that everybody else is running and getting trampled over, and he is watching and observing and learning how to respond, and what that, especially right at the beginning of the film when he sees these things happening and he starts to count in his head how long it took for them to turn, and then a few minutes later he's at the top of a building after he thinks he's been infected, and he counts because he knows 12 seconds is how long it takes to turn, and so I liked seeing the bits and pieces of him putting it together, but I do agree I wish there would have been more of that detective work. I mean, it's America, South Korea, Israel, and then into the UK, and it bounces around pretty quick. And even the time that they spend in South Korea, where you find out who Patient Zero was and how that got started, I thought that was interesting. And kind of intense when they're trying to get on the plane, and of course your main virologist guy doesn't make it. Yeah.
Well,
which I thought was great.
I told Keith, I was like, when that happened, it caught me off guard, because I was like, that was your one lead.
They talk him up and build him up, and you're like, oh, this guy's going to be a huge part of the movie, and then nope.
And that honestly, that did feel like a Damon Lindelof move. That felt like a quick, like, well, let's pull him this way, because now it's like, well, what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
Which I thought was good, but you're right. All of those other instances, they had the makings of something great.
Yeah, good bones.
But they were never fully fleshed out in such a way that it was like, okay, this is makes it in a league of its own.
Yeah.
I told Brandon after I watched it when I was recording the review, I feel like if they had, and not that Mark Forster's a bad director, because he has made really good movies, but a lot of his movies, especially since this one, have been kind of milquetoast. And I wonder if you had a director with more unique vision, the movie might have been just that little edge it needed to be like so much better, because I don't think it's a bad movie.
No.
I mean, I would have given it, like maybe under a director with a more unique vision, I would definitely have given it that 3 stars.
Yeah.
More of a honed in focus on like creativity and uniqueness. I agree.
If just not to run us over too long, but one other thing about the film that I really enjoy, and I think we don't see a lot of it now, is Brad Pitt as a man in this film who behaves the way a father and a husband should.
Yeah.
Coming from a movie like Speak No Evil, where you see this this passive man.
Pansy.
Yes. I mean, to see, like I said, you got to go back years to find this, but to see a man who puts his family first, number one, but also is proactive and not reactive or passive, and just the fact that he is willing to do what he's got to do to get his family to safety, but then even once he's safe, he's still willing to, if I have the tools and the knowledge to help this situation, then I'm gonna put my life on the line and go do it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the fact that Brad Pitt's character was that guy. And you can say it's like, oh yeah, he's the hero. Of course, he's got to be that way. And it's Brad Pitt. He's always the hero in the movie. But it's like, I enjoyed that because we don't see that a lot anymore. So just the fact that you have a film where the man acts like a man and a husband and a father and does what he's supposed to do, I thought that was great.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I loved about Shaun of the Dead was seeing, again, we mentioned
him,
how
him grow. Yeah.
He grew into somebody now that people would be like, no, he was okay, and now he's toxic. It'd be the reverse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, now you got to be the alpha that turns into a beta.
Yeah.
And then you're a good male.
Yeah.
All right, now we're ready to move on to our headline segment, so let's roll that open. I was able to catch Keith's reaction there. Normally he does something goofy, and I don't get it quick enough.
Never quick enough.
He's been drinking that bourbon over there. It's slowing him down.
Yeah.
Is it?
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know.
I'm only assuming because I was able to get your reaction this time before Usually I cut to you and you're back to normal, and it's like, well, what was the point of that?
I didn't know. I didn't know you were doing that.
But no, we got some good headlines here, some quick ones. I don't think we're gonna spend too much time on a lot of these. Starting up from the bottom to the top.
Our stream deck's
It hasn't been working the whole time.
Man, I gotta tell me this. You gotta give me a signal now.
Well, I
just
noticed it.
Yeah, Sean just noticed.
Keith always waits until I know he's gonna push
now
it.
It's working now.
Yep. It's always that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I hate that Stream Deck.
Yeah.
I hate Apple.
Yeah.
Oh man, gotta say too.
I know.
Way to interrupt me.
Yeah.
The theme song for World War Z. It
was great.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
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 Absolutely love it.
I will say that like I loved the entire like opening montage with the music. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is unsettling.
yeah,
I
I
really
Yes.
love
liked
that
how
piano
unsettling.
music.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Oddly,
very Exorcist.
yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
The weird thing is it must have been a theme just made for that, but like it's not on the original soundtrack. I had to actually Google what it was, and I forget what it's called, but it was not on the I don't know if it was made by some person and they used it for the film and just like adopted it as the theme. Let me see. I got it right here.
I just meant to
The
mention that.
Evolved. Theme from World War Z
Yeah,
is what it's
it's
called.
good. I like it.
And this group called The Evolved is what, but there's different iterations on Apple Music, and I was like, because that was the thing. I kept listening to every track, and I was like, well, surely they're going to go into the theme at some point.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, because I remembered it was that distinct.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've got to pull that music for the review, otherwise, like people are gonna be like, why didn't you use that?
Yeah.
But all right, so starting from the bottom to the top.
Odd.
Now we here.
From the bottom to the top.
Iger's
Bottom.
replacement.
We're gonna know in a little over a year.
I was gonna say we're gonna know in like 4 years.
Well, I was gonna say
No,
the
they
I-
said early 2026.
I know.
no. Well, that's when he's gonna take over.
Well, that's when they're
Or
going to
I'm
announce
sorry,
it.
that is when they're gonna announce it. They have another board member who's taking over for the board member of Nike that's on Disney's board right now.
They're
But
taking
he-
over for Disney's board, but the one who's on there now is Nike's board member.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was. I don't
The
know.
way you said it sounded like he was taking over for Nike, and I was confused. That's why.
No,
I was
I'm
like,
sorry. The
yeah.
guy from Nike who's on Disney's board is leaving.
Yeah,
This
okay.
guy, which it'd be probably easier if we just name
Yeah.
dropped him. I don't know.
I have it up. James Gorman.
James
He's
Gorman.
the new board chairman. Yeah.
And apparently his big priority is finding that replacement for Bob Iger.
yeah.
So Iger is contracted out through the rest of this year and 2025, and is set to end, and 2026.
Yeah. December 2026 is his last.
And that's when this new board member is supposed to be seeking his replacement. And so we should know by the beginning of 2026
Yeah.
who that person
They
is.
said the article says they were going to announce it in the beginning of 2026 so that he has the whole year to work with Iger in transition. It's I guess they don't want another Bob Chapek
Chapek
where it's
situation.
just like, oh well, he's gone now. You just run it.
And apparently this guy, what's his name again?
James Gorman,
Gorman
Psycho
here.
Gorman.
Yeah.
That's
That's a movie.
Late movie,
That is
yeah.
a movie.
Gorman here. Apparently this seems to be his forte.
Yeah.
He seems to know how to pick executives, and he was very instrumental in the smooth transition of leadership role change at Goldman Sachs, I believe.
Morgan Stanley.
Or
Well,
Morgan Stanley,
That's
sorry,
where
my
he's
bad.
the executive chairman now is Morgan Stanley, and he'll relinquishes that at the
At the
end
end
of
of
this
It
year.
says
Yeah.
the former Morgan Stanley CEO who joined Disney's board earlier this year. James Gorman was the former Morgan Stanley CEO. So
Well,
the first line.
Yeah, but it does say that he's fulfilling that at the end of this year.
Oh, he
I believe.
remains executive chairman. Okay, but
And
he
he's-
was the CEO.
And he's going to step down from them entirely at the end of this year because he'll be taking
Okay.
over Disney board.
Well,
Yeah.
a
The chairman
board
of the
seat.
board,
Yeah,
yeah.
there we
Yeah.
go. There
Well,
we go.
he's the chairman. Like he's not, but obviously he's like the figurehead of the board, but not.
It's
They
weird
still
that
vote.
they would be hiring him and then not. I guess his job is not to be CEO of Disney, though.
I got
No,
20
well, he
bucks.
maybe he doesn't
20
wanna
bucks
be.
says the next CEO of Disney is a woman.
I think so too.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, they mentioned that in the article. They mentioned that there's people
And
who are
that'll be it.
circulating as what was it? The Walden, what's her name? Is one of the top on the top of the lists. I don't know. I don't have the open right in front of me.
Yeah, I was looking to see their list.
They just mentioned those two names in there.
The
Dana
succession planning-
Walden.
Okay.
They said that 4 international or internal candidates: ESPN chairman Jimmy Patario, Parks boss Josh D'Amaro, and Disney Entertainment co-chairs Dana Walden and Alan Bergman. So really only one woman in that lineup, but Dana Walden is the one that's like a raging leftist that
Yeah, that's.
it would
I
not.
can I can see that.
But here's the thing. I mean, look, and it's up to Disney, but they can
Yeah.
they can continue to dig their own grave.
That's what
Yeah,
I say. If
yeah.
they,
They're not in any great financial shape right
Yeah.
now, and even this so-called contract of Bob Iger leading them back into the good graces of the consumer I mean, we're a year.
It hasn't worked so far.
Are we 2 years in now at this point? Because
I thought it was 2.
I thought
I think we're 2
Chapek
years
left.
back.
Actually, are we 3? Didn't Chapek leave at the end of 2020, or was it 21?
He was. I didn't think he left at the end of
He
2020.
took over at the end of 2020 because it was during the height of COVID.
Yeah, he was around during COVID.
And he took over, and I want to say that it was like he was ousted in the fall, and I can't remember when he left.
November 20th, 2022.
So okay, so we're 2 years,
2 years
in to Iger's,
Yep.
what is it? I don't know what you would call it.
Being rehired,
readmitted,
reinstated. He's reinstated
yeah.
as CEO. Yeah.
And the fact that he was on a 3-year contract, and it's like we're 2 years in, and we've not seen any huge bounce back. We've not seen, even if they say so internally, we know that all of the look, our other major story that we're going to talk about now too is the fact that Gina Carano, who was wrongfully terminated.
They tried to delay that and got shot down.
The court basically said, no, you can't dismiss this. There's rightful grounds here for her lawsuit, and if she wants to pursue it.
Well, yeah, they tried to dismiss it first. That was slapped down, and then just recently they tried to delay it, and that was struck down.
And I actually wanted to pull up those details because I thought it was very telling based on not only is Disney trying to get out of the frying pan, and they're just jumping right into the fryer.
Is that me?
I think so.
Oh,
it just started.
The video started playing with.
I thought it was
sound.
interesting too because if you even just read the details of what Carano's looking for, it's like she's seeking a court order that would force Lucasfilm to recast her.
Yeah.
Which I honestly, when I ask her, like, really, you want to be recast by the very people who just ousted you? I think it's more so as a matter of principle.
Yeah.
But then at least $75,000 plus punitive damages. But $75,000? That's
yeah,
it?
Dropping the bucket.
She's not talking about
they
millions of dollars lawsuit here, which is clearly what she would have been out of.
They could settle. Like they would settle for more than that. Like if they really, and that's what's crazy.
But it just goes to show you that her whole point in bringing this lawsuit is clearly not to stick it to Disney financially to get some kind of lucrative deal for herself personally. It's to set a standard of this is what we're dealing with, and she clearly uses the double standard that we all know of by now. That her co-star Pedro Pascal
was tweeting whatever he wanted.
And he was tweeting similar, if not the exact same things, but from an opposite political spectrum, and treated completely different because he had the correct political view in Disney's eyes versus Carano's. And so just wonderful news to hear that her lawsuit will be continuing in the courts, and we're hoping that this is, again, another instance of Disney gone afoul. This is, I think, from poor leadership. We recently learned from 2 board members that were trying to, as the media puts it, I love how they put it, instill a coup to take out Bob Iger. And it's like, no, they were rightfully trying to fight on behalf of the shareholders who are invested in this company to continue to not see it hit rock bottom as far as the lowest stock prices ever, but to actually see it rise with new leadership that isn't tainted with the same infighting and the same circle that we've come to know from Disney. And it seems like, no, you've not got any different perspectives on the board. These are all the same people circle jerking each other, and they have been for quite some time now, to the point where it's like, no, leadership is a problem because you have all these people who are talking in the same circles. It's an echo chamber up there, and they don't know what real change is going to institute. And Bob Iger clearly hasn't. He's not instituted that. He may have been able to trim some of the fat in terms of the budget, but you've still got crazy losses out there from some of their theatrical releases. Deadpool Wolverine ain't going to make it all up.
Yeah.
Sorry. You got to have more than, $1 billion movie a year.
Oh, Deadpool Wolverine 2 will make it all up.
Well,
because that's in the works. They announced it the other day.
Of course, why wouldn't it be?
It's in the works.
I thought that was just I didn't know there had been an official announcement.
Yeah, it's Ryan Reynolds is the one who posted the thing, that said Deadpool Wolverine 2 is already in the works.
That? Did he post it on X?
I'm pretty sure it was on X.
I have to look up his X account and see if that's the case.
I know he did a ad with Hugh Jackman for Deadpool and Wolverine going to Disney Plus. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I saw
the
too that
magic wand thing and everything.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, that was like the old school Disney channel.
But he was talking about his old Disney movie, not Deadpool and Wolverine.
But I'm interested to see what happens with this lawsuit. I think, obviously this is good news with Carano. I think she's been fighting this, and clearly, like we just stated with even what she's seeking, it's clearly to send a message to not only Disney, but Hollywood in general, because this is what we're having to fight against. And, and it's not just us here on the show. It's the entertainment that we're getting at the box office. You want to know why box office continues to dwindle? It's COVID is a thing of the past now. You can't keep going back to that well and crying foul.
There's nothing people want to see because the only thing they put out is the message or lackluster films. And I mean, I'm glad that, like you said, it's not so much about her trying to get anything other than to set the standard that you can't just do whatever you want because you don't have the same viewpoint as you. And they could say, our practice and standards dictate you can't be posting certain things. It's like, okay, but then you have to enforce that for everyone, not just the one person who has a political viewpoint opposite of everyone else.
No, agreed. And it's interesting because that brings us to our main headline for this evening.
Yeah.
Hollywood 2.0.
We've talked about this actually a bit, and I love every time someone else comes out and says, hey, movies are beginning to boom again, just not in Hollywood. And I mean, I think we've seen it with the indie market. Like most of the movies we've seen that we like have been the smaller or more independent movies like Longlegs was. Or, I mean, not that there haven't been franchise movies we like too. We like Top Gun, obviously, and I'm trying to think of one this year that Deadpool, obviously, being the biggest franchise film.
Yeah.
But even those movies aren't filming in Hollywood. They're filming in Canada or Atlanta or any place with the better tax cuts. So that no one wants to film in California, in Hollywood, where it costs twice as much, where they can go to Vancouver and pay nothing.
Well, and especially when it comes, when we've seen the writer strikes and the effect that's had, but we also have seen too the fact that it's insane that it's like you deal with these unions not only in terms of a possible strike incoming every so often, but also the fact that you have to deal with union contracts, and that stipulates how you get paid and when. And it's like with the expenses of everything going up, it's like that's how another way in which these movie budgets balloon, as opposed to when you actually go back to what the heart of real Hollywood filmmaking used to be, which was a group of passionate filmmakers and artists get together and say, these are the stories we want to tell and we want to pass on to the next generation.
And that's not to say people shouldn't get paid for their work or that below the line people, like obviously below the line people deserve to make the money because the movie couldn't exist without them.
It's the same difference of, look, people who claim to be want to be celebrity status or famous, versus whether it's being on YouTube or that's the new celebrity status of today. But even back in the day when it was like, okay, the whole idea of celebrity status was like that was America's royalty.
Yeah, and
it was like you at least had some prestige with it because you were well known. But there were people who kind of saw to it that it was like, okay, this is a responsibility more so than a bully pulpit.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna speak to these people as they're the reason I'm here, and I should thank them. Versus no, I'm on this pedestal because I'm so much better than you, and talking down to the subordinates.
I'm the elite. You need to listen to me. It was like, I only have a job because you go see my movies.
Right.
And even going back to the payment argument, they got paid as much as they do because they bring people in. It's just like when we were making fun of Bryce Dallas Howard complaining about making nothing compared to Chris Pratt in Jurassic World. It's like, well, yeah, because was a mega star when that movie came out, and sadly, people know you, but you're not the same level of star. And when you have unions forcing companies to pay even more to people that don't bring in as much money. It's like, yes, the below the line people deserve to make money, but they're not going to make Robert Downey Jr. money. That's ridiculous. I mean, I'm sorry. And if you force everybody to get paid more, production goes up more, and then you have movies like Joker 2 that are made for $200 million, and you're wondering where the hell did that money go because it wasn't a $200 million movie.
The other thing, too, about these people's salaries is it's not like Robert Downey Jr. went into a meeting with the executive producers and said, "This is how much money I want." Like he
might now, but
he
did. His agent did.
These stars have agents. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They have agents that negotiate on their behalf, and it's like I can't help. You can't help it that Chris Pratt's agent negotiated better than Bryce Dallas Howard.
That's true too.
I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve it compared to Chris Pratt because He's Chris freaking Pratt. But I mean,
We know
still,
your feelings
even
on it.
even in that movie, even in the Jurassic World franchise, which are terrible, it's still he's the better performer.
He's
the draw.
He's the draw,
I was gonna say,
exactly.
you're setting up again. This is what Hollywood current day has to contend with, is the reality of what it is they're trying to the BS they're trying to sell you on the screen versus the reality of what it really comes down to on the business aspect.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that's where they're having to get the rude awakening and talking about, there is a business to be had here, and you can't just continue to have loss after loss after loss because you're chasing after some ideology that you want to pursue in spite of who actually turns up and put their butts in seats and pays the ticket price. And we're specifically talking about one actor, Nick Searcy, and this is a Daily Wire article that we'll have linked in the description below, but he was specifically talking about he's an actor in the most recent movie Reagan that came out and had to fight like hell just to even get noticed as an indie film, because it was getting trounced, and even with an lead actor like Dennis Quaid,
it wasn't Reagan bad,
Yeah.
so
Right.
that Hollywood didn't like it.
And that's the thing, is he's basically saying Searcy is a handful of openly conservative actors, and he's maintained a steady career despite the industry's aversion to right-leaning talent. He's recently been joined by both Quaid and Shazam star Zachary Levi, which was a shock, honestly. He came out of the blue.
I don't know if you saw that his most recent film, the somebody in the Big Purple Crown or whatever the
Harold and the
So,
Purple Crown.
Harold, that movie is already they're trying to sell that to Netflix.
Yeah, it's
and
already
Netflix didn't
digital, I
want
think.
it.
Well, of course
Like,
not.
yeah, they
'Cause
said
you got
we don't
Reed
want it.
Hastings and those assholes up there who just are big liberal pricks.
But I think it's funny. It's like he's in that, he announces that he's for Trump and all this stuff, and now it's like it's not a great movie. Me and the kids already watched it. It sucks.
It's
but
very
it's still
generic
it's like
family film.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, we're gonna try to.
Oh, wait. Is
We're-
it on par or better than If from John Krasinski?
Yeah, no, If is way better.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
because even if is like
It's milk
that's a
toast.
dull movie.
Yeah, no, Harold and the Purple Crowns. It's like made for TV bad.
Well, hey, Shazam
Yeah,
was good.
but
I
I'm
like
just saying,
Shazam.
it's like
It's a family film. I
He's,
mean,
he's
you know.
blacklisted. I mean, he's going to be blacklisted.
Yeah.
they're already trying to
can
sell
see
off
that.
his
That's
movies.
what I
and
thought. I
think
like
he'll-
about this is it says both endorsed Trump in recent weeks, and Levi admitting the decision could be career suicide. Searcy thinks he knows why they're speaking out now. Quote, people see the situation a little more clearly now and what's at stake. What good is it if you hang on to your career but you lose your country? So again, they're putting something a little bit more above their own personal gain.
Yeah.
He said, Hollywood is losing its position as the center of the entertainment universe. He says, noting how many productions have fled for Canada and tax-friendly states with lower costs. The Hollywood Reporter recently confirmed this. They specifically mentioned in one of their articles, shooting days slipped 5% over a 3-month period from July to September to 5,048, marking the weakest quarter of 2024. And even in every category of scripted production lags behind 5-year averages on both a per quarter and year-to-date basis. That's not only the only change right-leaning stars are to speak their minds. Searcy notes new distribution companies like SDG Releasing, which handled the Daily Wire's Am I Racist, or Showbiz Direct, distributing Reagan, and possibly a new streaming platform from even Team Trump called Truth Plus.
Oh,
That'd be
wow.
interesting.
Daily Wire Plus.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that's where all your Dinesh D'Souza documentaries are going.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But the infrastructure is being built. We don't have to suck up to the Hollywood left anymore. For now, Searcy nimbly dances between mainstream Hollywood projects. I was shocked by this. Shape of Water. I don't even know who he played in The Shape of Water. Netflix's The Perfect Couple. And Indie Fair, Terror on the Prairie he was in, which is a Daily Wire venture.
He was in Justified, which was a huge show.
And they mentioned that was one of his credits.
Yeah.
He also produces right-leaning documentaries like Capital Punishment. That's all while holding nothing back on his X account, which I'll go ahead and give him a shout out.
Yep.
Yes, Nick Searcy.
And he is in Dinesh D'Souza's next documentary.
Yeah, I mentioned
he
that.
plays like the FBI or whatever in the dramatized part, or dramatized, or however you say that.
See, and I hate those.
He
They're always,
plays
I ain't
that
gonna lie,
part.
those are always so cheesy.
Yeah, where they're trying to like set him up for J6
Dinesh,
and stuff.
now that we've got something like Daily Wire, and look, Am I Racist and What is a Woman are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta learn something from your filmmakers there. And I mean, look, it takes. I'm not knocking Dinesh D'Souza, but there is a certain level of filmmaking that, again, this is what conservatives are learning, and you have these people who are on your side that are willing to come into the fold and say, all right, we'll help you produce some good content with good, like, real acting, real production value, so it doesn't look cheaply made.
Yeah, he's going to turn into the right side's Michael Moore, unfortunately.
Well,
like, it's going to get to the point where his documentaries
that's his whole
are just
career.
stupid.
Yeah. Or overly ridiculous, yeah.
Ironically, Hollywood did have plans for a different Reagan biopic in recent years, and of course, to no surprise, it has nothing to do with the likes of Cersei and Quaid delivered on their movie. The 2016 project hatched from a blacklist screenplay cast Will Ferrell as a dementia-addled leader in a satirical comedy. And that shows you. I mean, even Reagan's kids and his son is not a right-leaning figure at all.
Nope, sadly.
But they even came out, decried it, and said this is not going to paint our father in a good light at all. And it was by the fact that it had such backlash from public that they just put it on the shelf indefinitely.
Yeah.
And he said that's how the left uses the film medium. It's evolved from a storytelling medium to a way for them to attack their political opponents. I'm waiting for a movie about how feeble Biden was, and you won't get it. Because that's the thing. It's been so clearly one-sided for such a long time, and now you are starting to see, I think, the opposite effect, where we're saying that, hey, we're finally getting a tent large enough to, usher in talent from, not only conservative thinkers in Hollywood, but even, I would say, those who are much more, kind of in the middle. They're just, think of Elon Musk. He is not a conservative by any means. He's much more center. But he's talking about how crazy the left has gotten to the point where I think what you're finally seeing is not only a waking up moment for Hollywood, but you're seeing people who just don't even want to be involved in the political landscape, or even just, again, you're seeing the opposite, where now all of the talent in Hollywood is hell-bent on making these anti-right and anti-conservatives and Trump is Hitler stuff, that you're really left with milquetoast, generic, because the talented people who really want to put their heart and soul in something, they're not even into that.
Yeah.
They don't even care about that. They just want to make good movies. And sometimes it is just about connecting on a deeper level. A part of the reason Smile 2 was so effective and was so good, or even World War Z from 10 years ago, these films just told good stories.
Yeah.
Where
No
it centered
agenda.
on the characters. There was no agenda. It was just a good movie through and through. And so when we bring up Hollywood 2.0, it's not that Hollywood is going to burn to the, into an ash heap. I mean, it's kind of on that path.
It might.
Yeah.
But the old
can only hope.
the old guard is learning the very, harsh reality of, if you don't produce something that people and audiences see, it doesn't matter what your agenda is, doesn't matter what your ideology is, or how much DEI crap you instill in it. If butts aren't in seats and paying the ticket price, you're failing. And you will have to close up shop. You can't keep doing this forever. You have to turn a new leaf. And I think there is a little bit of that starting to seep in. And if it doesn't, because you just have these people who are so hell-bent on holding on and not letting go of that grasp because they see it as, oh, this is a principled stand, well then, yeah, you'll take it all the way to the grave. And you'll have new Paramounts, new Universals, new Warner Brothers, a new Hollywood pop up all over the place. And again, like they mentioned too, with the way the internet has been, look, the internet has revolutionized everything for decades, but it clearly is the barrier breaking of any kind of, absolutely have to have this model of, gatekeepers in, in line in terms of the checks and balances. It's like it breaks all the rules. It breaks all the barriers. There's tons of different ways to get your message and your idea out there. And sometimes it's those little nuggets of ideas that seep out to the right person in the right way, and it just explodes. And I think you at least have that hunger from the right side of the aisle right now because they're so starved for good entertainment. And it's been so long since we've seen good movies that clamoring, I think, is going to lead to a wake up really quick.
Yeah.
And it won't be in LA, but it'll be all over everywhere else. Alrighty, guys, I think we're finally ready to move into our final segment of the night. That is our Vices topic.
Nice.
You gotta do
Well, it was funny. I
can't do it.
I cut to Sean because it was like and then you stopped. You stopped doing it.
You got to be quicker, dude.
Yeah,
You're the
he's
director.
not
You got to be
fast
quick
enough.
with that crap.
It's like as soon as I cut
as
to
soon
you,
as somebody
you just stop.
moves, you push the button.
I trust
You're like,
me.
oh, he's doing something. Push the button.
Killing me, Smalls.
Y'all
Right.
say this and
Killing
y'all.
me.
I'd love to see y'all over here direct one show.
I'm not gonna do
I'd
it.
love to see it just one time and host.
That sounded awesome. like it actually finished and it was quiet and there was a little reverb at the end. I like that.
That was for Brandon.
That was
his
good.
response to us. We wouldn't pass if we had.
That's
to do
right.
it.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
You wouldn't.
we would not.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody would teach us
I could teach y'all
how to do it.
I just love to see you do it after I teach you. We'll see if you can pull it off. We'll
You think
do it.
we're stupid.
Yeah.
No.
We're not stupid.
No, I'm just saying it takes talent. It takes talent.
Okay.
Y'all just don't appreciate what I do.
Yo, shoot your eye out. Yo, shoot your eye out.
Keith just lets it run through every.
No, that's just us crashing and burning. Yeah, it's the most I can. Like, there's not a direct. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of
there's
unique
no,
ones.
There's no Top Gun on there.
Yes, yeah.
Crash and burn, man.
Yeah, that would have been. That would have
That
fit
would have
better.
been great.
I actually don't.
I'm trying to use
don't
ones
know
that
that
don't
quote.
get used a lot and make them fit, but they don't quite.
If you all
fit.
were over here, you'd be looking at this stuff like you were in the Twilight Zone.
There you go.
he set me up for that.
You'd be
one.
sitting
Yeah.
here and you'd be thinking, "Oh my gosh, there's too much going on. I need more hands."
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
All right, he got it. He knew what I was
I hit
talking
it.
about.
It took it a minute on that one. I don't know why.
But I'm trying to relay. I don't know what else
you
got.
you got it so far. We're
We
good.
appreciate what you do. Now, can we move on?
All right, we're actually revisiting the topic we had for last week,
Yeah.
but we skipped out on because it wasn't
Yeah.
Vice's topic.
It was wrong.
And not only that, I'm glad that I'm actually shocked. I didn't think about this till after the show. What? We teased this without ever dropping what the topic was last week, which is almost impossible for us to do.
Nice.
So people
Nice.
have been waiting on pins and needles.
They don't know what it is.
They have no clue
No
what
clue.
Our Vice's topic was last week and what
Wow.
it is this week. Beautiful.
Now that it works, he's on top of it.
I mean, Keith's got it.
You can't do what
I
he
can't
does.
do what he does.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
All I'd have to do is hit 2 buttons every week. It's the same damn 2
Yeah, all you
buttons.
gotta do
He's
is-
done like- yeah. He's done at
Okay,
least,
that's enough
at
of
least
that.
4 different
I've,
ones.
like that's the most I think I've used that in a small amount of
yeah,
time.
they've been
in one
spot
show.
on. I will say that.
and it has been the biggest
And we're still not
variety.
to the segment yet.
All right,
Yeah,
here we go.
yeah.
Here we go. The candy you would buy, the
Yeah,
candy that you would hope no one else wants on Halloween.
Yeah.
So this is specifically talking about kind of the candy that you're hoping.
You
buy
buy
the
it-
candy with
Yep.
the hopes that nobody
Nobody
will
else
take it,
will
so
want
you
it.
get to have it.
That's right.
Yeah, easy.
But see, normally
I-
I hand out candy. I don't let them take it. So I mean, I would just hand
Same
out
thing.
what I would just
oh
hand
no,
out.
no,
you know,
no!
whatever I, want them to
put
have.
the bucket out and say, "Take 2."
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I just grab a handful and say, "Here,
dude, I'm
take
cheap.
a bunch."
I'm also I don't know. I like.
Here's the thing: I don't hand
Seeing
out
the
candy.
trick-or-treaters.
I do at my parents' like a little bit because I go around with my nieces and nephews and Miranda
Okay,
and them.
true. Fair enough.
So when I buy candy, I did buy candy last year and put it in a bucket on the porch for people to just
No,
take.
I don't leave it. I stand there with the bucket.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I
let
wasn't
them
home.
take it. I don't
Oh.
hand them stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want my hands on it. I let them pick the pieces that they want.
Here, rah,
Yeah,
in there.
I don't
But-
do the handful
yeah.
thing though.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I'll do I'll be generous. I'll get like 3 or 4 pieces. But
Okay.
again, I didn't buy the candy,
Yeah.
and I
I know,
shouldn't
my
be
parents
that
are like,
generous,
you give
but-
them 1 or 2 pieces. I'm like, here, take a bunch of it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not. We don't. I mean,
You're
we
so
do,
defiant.
But, you know,
Oh my
that's right.
God.
Well, I'm only
because I
only
remember
give out
back
like
when
maybe
I was a
5 or
kid.
6 kids before I leave. So
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, and and you always remember those houses where you're like, man, they gave us a
They gave
good
a bunch.
amount.
candy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
But I will say, my parents they get the good candy. But I did
do
it
too.
once. I handed out candy my first year in the house.
Nice.
And it was literally because I left work. It was Halloween, and I was like, "Oh crap!" I was on my way home, and I was like, "I'm gonna be home like while it's trick or treat time, and I don't have any candy."
Any candy. Just
I
turn your
ran.
light off.
I ran
Yeah,
to.
turn the
Well,
light on. You don't
but
have
it was my first.
I feel
year
you.
on
Year
the,
in
on
this
the
house.
block.
I feel like
Yeah.
a heel if I didn't give out candy and I was
right,
home.
and that was the thing. And plus, I'm like, my TV's right in the living room. You can see the flicker and light.
Yeah,
I was like,
they know you're there.
So I did the right thing. I went by the store
And they
that
had the
year.
Christmas candy out already, didn't they?
Actually, I was shocked. It was the one time I was thankful that they overstocked for Halloween.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I didn't have much variety. I picked what they had left over. It was like Tootsie Rolls and Dots.
I was
Yeah.
saying, my nieces and nephews got Christmas Kit Kats for Halloween. I was like, that's crazy.
That's
Like,
nuts.
Somebody, I guess, probably a similar last minute went and got candy, and it
Yeah.
was the Christmas
We got
wrapped
Easter candy from
Yeah.
last year.
Okay, that's
like, ooh, I got
worse.
an egg for
Yeah.
Halloween. Nice. Reese's egg.
But okay, so we beat around the bush enough. What is the one candy? Because mine is different than what I prefer. Reese's is my favorite.
Yeah.
But it's not the one that I'm like have a hankering for on like Halloween when it's like based on the variety packs your parents get, depending
Really?
on what it is. No. I there's different ones.
I just Reese's and Snickers. Reese's, like that's my main to go to for most. Anything with peanuts in it.
But those are always going to get taken, though.
And those are also I feel like the most
No,
common that
because
they're
I
handed
just-
out.
Well, I mean, I don't hand out candy. I just go buy a bag, and that's my candy.
See, I absolutely love Mounds and Almond Joy.
Oh wow.
And so I will put those in the candy bucket because no kid wants a freaking coconut-filled piece of
Yeah,
chocolate
that is
or
true.
an almond, and I know that they'll pick around those, and those will be mine later because
That's right.
they are my favorite.
See, I guess
So-
this is not a problem I have, so I haven't had to decide yet what I want to for
My
Mine-
wife doesn't know that I do that.
Yeah.
But
oh wait, but that's the other thing. It kind of unintentionally. Well, no, I guess intentionally. You can actually buy that candy knowing the kids don't want it, but
Yes,
you can
I
keep
do.
it for yourself. Yeah,
I do. I buy it and put it in there because it's a way that I get candy
That's
without
right.
buying myself
exactly,
candy.
100%.
Yes.
Mine, I would say, and again, like you said, it's typically what my parents buy, but mine are either the sixlets, those little sixlets.
No.
Y'all don't know what those are.
I know what those are, but I
But
don't know.
those
Those are
or shut up! It's my pick.
garbage.
They're good, and the Snickers peanut butter.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's
The
a
one-
popular
those are good.
one though.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's one that I hope they don't take all of it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, like as the night goes on, everybody knows. It's like, well, yeah, I'm sitting right here, I'm handing
gonna
it
take
out.
one.
But as soon as we get one, and the other one's right down the road a little bit, I can eat one. I can just.
I think for
Take
every
one for
5
myself.
trick-or-treaters, you should get a piece.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't see a
The
problem with that.
closest
Every
I've
trick-or-treater.
had, I say the closest I've
Every
had to
other.
this conundrum, because I guess because I don't hand out candy, I don't have the problem. But the closest I got is last year I did fill up a bucket and leave it on my front stoop for kids to take whatever they wanted since I was going to my parents. But
I've
it's
never
a main
done that.
well, it's
Yeah.
a main road, and it also doesn't have a lot of lights, so I don't really know if we'd have any trick-or-treaters or how
True.
many. I came home and I don't think anybody like touched that bucket, so then I just took it back in. I was like, sweet, I got all the candy.
Oh wow.
Man.
See, and it is okay.
Because
it
I was
is-
hoping it wouldn't be completely gone, but I was gonna be okay if it
I was thinking one kid would just dump it in his pillowcase.
That's why
and
I don't
take it
think I
all.
had a single trick or treater. Like, I'm being honest. Like, I think because
It makes sense though, because you
Yeah.
don't even have a sidewalk.
there's not
on
a side.
your-
That's what I'm
yeah.
saying. Like, I was like, I think if maybe I was home and the door was open, the porch light was on and everything,
Maybe.
and maybe they might come across the street because there's a sidewalk on the other side of the street. But it is a main road, and there's no sidewalk, and there's not light there either. It's very dark. There's not a street light. So I was just thinking, I was like, they probably didn't even see the bucket on my stoop.
Probably not. Now, as far as it's an interesting question. As far as that's chocolate, and actually another one is Nestle Crunch.
I like Nestle Crunch.
That's another one that I'm just like.
Actually,
I hope,
I'm a sucker for like the simple like Mr. Good bar and the Crunch or Crackle if you're Hershey.
Crackle or the crispy.
Yeah, I like
Rice-
but those are more to me.
Well, the Good Bar's Hershey, but it's just
No,
peanuts.
but so is the Crackle. 'Cause Crunch is Nestle and Crackle's Hershey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I associate those more with Christmas because they got the red and green wrappers, the Good
Oh,
Bar,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I love getting those for Christmas. The little just Hershey, Crackle, and Good Bar.
As far
assortment.
as like sweet though, or like a fruity flavor, either Skittles
yes.
or bottle caps.
I like Smarties.
Ooh, Smarties are
Smarties
good
are
too.
crack.
Smarties are fun.
Those are
I
like
love
cocaine.
bottle caps. I'll
Bottle
give you
caps
that
are
one.
good.
I do like bottle
Oh,
caps.
now Smarties, they're not sealed. You can just twist them open.
Right.
Put some fentanyl in there.
That's
So
true.
I might not eat Smarties this year.
Yeah.
But they are good.
They are good.
They are good.
Till they kill
Smarties,
you. They're good.
And the thing is like they are that one that I could eat a whole sleeve and I don't feel too bad because it's just powdered sugar.
That's right.
And it's like a whole sleeve of that is like maybe 25 calories. So I'm like,
really?
I can eat like 4 of those.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
crazy.
It's like it's
not
nothing.
much.
I mean, but by the time I've eaten a whole bag, it's like I've ate 500 calories.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a
a
lot
lot.
of carbs probably with all that sugar.
And then I don't know why, but
I like sweet tarts too.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
like sweet tarts.
like if I'm going that route, I actually prefer shock tarts.
Yes, I do, which
Shock
is
tarts
odd for you
which
because those are more
I know,
sour.
I know. I
Yeah.
don't like the way they make me.
Now I got one because I bought some at the Halloween store. I went to I've gone to the Halloween store twice this year, and I love going in there.
Halloween store?
Yeah, Spirit Halloween.
Where's that?
It's where
Is it
the
the
Big
Target?
Lots used to be.
Oh,
By
Big Lots.
Ollie's?
Yeah, it's where
Oh.
it's by Ollie's. It's where Big Lots used to be, which
Okay.
is the same shopping center Target used to be in. But they open every year. I mean, they put them into every dead outlet store
Yeah,
they can.
yeah.
But I've been in there twice, and the second time I was in there, like they had some candy, like they have like these shelves full of crap as you like wait in line, hoping you'll buy like all this like. Because it's stuff that ties into horror movies and stuff, which is really cool. But then they have a shelf of candy, and they had the extra sour. It was the extreme sour warheads, and I haven't had warheads in years because I mean, I used to
man,
get
yeah.
those for Halloween all the time. Like they always come in Halloween.
It's already like making my jaw tense.
I thought of you when I ate one because it's like Brandon would not. He could not.
Although
It's,
the weird thing is I always liked the most sour of those was the black cherry,
yes,
and I love the black cherry.
the black cherry is the
So
best.
freaking
And I
good.
agree. It is the most sour.
And as soon as you get all of the sour off of it, it's just
The candy in the middle is good.
You would think the lemon or apple would make
Yeah,
the
I
most
would've
sense to
thought
be, but the
lemon
black
or apple.
cherry, like it
It's just
gets
the most
ya.
sour.
I put one in my mouth, like, and it's been a long time, but when I got it, I did the black cherry, and like my whole face just went.
Yep, that's mine.
I was
That's
like,
mine.
whoa!
As a kid, I used to run them under the faucet just so I didn't have to eat the sour part.
Cheater.
I did well. I
But
was
the
like,
sour part's the part I like.
well, and it's like I'll do it now just because I don't want to be a wuss. But I also another random weird. I just have too much candy favorites. Again, it's like the candy that to me, the way I look at it is it's the candy I'll never buy for myself. Like you
That's
said,
true.
Sean. It's just the candy that comes in the multi-packs that I enjoy like nibbling on throughout the night because I never buy it.
Yeah, normally I wouldn't buy warheads. I did this time for
Right.
myself, but normally, like, yeah, I'm not gonna go hunt down warheads and buy a bag of warheads.
But
Yeah.
a lot of people hate them. I love Milk Duds.
I like
and,
Milk Duds.
and I like Rolos.
I love the Rolos.
Rolos
yes.
are okay.
And it's just like I don't know. It's just these
Rolos
weird
and
candies
and
that
the Reasons. Have you seen the
Reasons
yeah,
are good.
Reasons.
Oh, Reasons are
I have
fantastic.
a hilarious story about.
I
Reasons.
actually bought those one year as like my call me again old, but it was like a car candy. I was like, oh, I want to put some Reasons in my car just to have a little snack. The problem is you can't do it in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They'll melt.
they say did they all melt together?
They didn't because I got it in the winter.
Okay.
But then I just ate one constantly till the whole pack was gone, so it
Yeah.
didn't serve the purpose. And that's why I will say, I don't even care if I liked them as a kid. Maybe it's because my parents did, but I still say it's a good candy, old person candy, a little Werther's.
Werther's.
I knew it.
I like them.
I knew it was
Yep,
gonna be
you
the
knew it was going to be
I
Werther's.
used, and you mentioned last week that you hated them, but I mean, I actually, and I did too when I was younger, but I actually liked the red and
Oh, I hate
whatever.
those.
I used to hate those, but I like
now,
those now.
the Christmas one, like the
peppermints?
peppermints are fine.
No.
Or like the ones that are like it's a what
I
is
don't
it?
like
It's
the
a
puffy
taffy.
peppermints. Yeah,
I don't mind the taffy, but the red or the orange and black taffy that you get for Halloween, awful.
Yeah, I like those.
Awful. Ugh.
They're
It's
just-
like
they're
a
like-
peanut butter and a licorice.
No, they're not the same ones I'm talking. They're in red and black like that, but mine are like peanut butter and a caramel. Maybe they don't do the licorice anymore. I don't know.
Oh, maybe it is caramel.
yeah.
But I don't like those.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
like them. I'm like, if I'm gonna eat peanut butter like that, just give me a Reese's at that
yeah.
point. And then the ones that I hate, that I'm like definitely will pass on and I don't like, they're the little caramel apple suckers.
Oh yeah. I don't hate those, but they're not. I'm not big on
I'm
them.
like, why? That's not.
I do
no.
like a blow pop.
Blow
Yeah,
pops
blow
are
pops
good.
are good.
Here's the
Hurt
thing.
the roof of your mouth.
I
but-
like
yeah.
the blow pops, but I'd rather have a Tootsie Roll Pop.
I don't
Only
like blow-
because the Tootsie Roll Pop, I can actually eat the Tootsie Roll. The blow pop, I'm like, I gotta chew this gum now, but I want to eat more candy.
See,
So
I
it'd
don't,
have to be like the
Save
last
it
thing
for
that I
last,
eat.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like Tootsie Rolls, and I like honestly, maybe it's weird. I don't like the taste of Tootsie Roll Pops because I can taste like the freaking like
Yeah, you can taste,
taste
the
the
Tootsie.
Tootsie
Roll.
Roll
Yeah.
in the sucker somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And I will argue that was one that I know we said it last week before we went into the segment, but Tootsie Rolls are the one
Yeah.
candy that it's like I'll never buy that, but if they're in the bowl, I will munch on some Tootsie Rolls. They're actually
Now,
pretty good.
Laffy Taffy, I love Laffy Taffy or any
Yeah, those are
taffy
good.
really.
Yeah.
I can get
I like
those
taffy.
anytime though. I feel like, but yeah, Tootsie Rolls. Alrighty, there you have it. That was our Vices segment. Halloween
we
Vices
got
segment.
we got a comment. We
Oh,
got to
yeah.
come up with
Go
another.
ahead.
I don't know what segment we could squeeze this into.
Oh gosh, what is it?
Brian mentioned it while I was over there, and he mentioned it again in the comments. So that means it's really important.
Oh, okay. All right. What is
but he
the segment?
said we need to have a segment or something where we talk about. Let me make sure I get it right. What actor you could imagine to play in a role that they didn't play in? So basically,
that
like
could be multimedia.
Yeah, it's like
We could do that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, we can't do it next week.
like who else could have been Moses in the Ten Commandments? Like
No one.
no one except Charlton freaking
Max
Heston.
von Sydow.
Yeah, but it's like yeah, a
Or
role that they
maybe-
normally wouldn't do.
Or maybe even an iconic role that we would swap.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Well, yeah, in a role that actor or
You would-
actress normally wouldn't play.
Yeah.
Or a role you could have seen them doing, but they never
Like
did.
I want to see The Rock
maybe?
in a romantic comedy.
That's actually interesting.
That's- if you're going
I
from
kinda
that,
dig
like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a role that you would have liked to, like, I don't know.
I mean,
I think I get what
you
you're saying.
could,
Yeah.
I think, go big picture
Yeah.
in that sense, like where it's not a
Well,
specific.
I mentioned like Robert Carlyle. I always wanted to see play Doctor Who because I think he would have nailed it.
There you
'cause
go.
He never did, but that's not something I.
we're
outside of it.
doing another.
Yes.
We're gonna talk. We're gonna.
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
let's not do the segment right now.
yeah, we're gonna revisit this.
Figure that
Brian.
out.
That's a good one.
Maybe a multimedia thing. I don't know.
Thank you,
And
Brian.
maybe now that we've talked about it a little bit, we'll remember it.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah.
But next week's multimedia is the wrap up of our
Yes.
most influential picks. So
I gotta
we'll have our
come up with
final
one.
pick of our most influential picks of all time.
So it might be a little bit before we get back to that one, Brian. Sorry, but we will. But I like it.
Yeah.
I like
We'll revisit it. But until next time, you can always like, share, subscribe on all of our social media accounts. That's right. Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on X, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and of course, search for Red Moon Productions on both YouTube and Rumble. We're live on both those platforms. And there's that old-fashioned way of reaching out to us. Keith, what is that old-fashioned way?
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Ooh, I
Dude,
love it.
he had to
Oh,
like wind up. Did you see his mouth?
That was the
Yeah.
bourbon.
Could you
in
play
me.
that back
That
in
was
slow-mo?
that was the bourbon.
Could you do that
Ooh.
later?
Oh, you know what I should have done? Hold
Straight
on,
up, he
no,
was
no,
like,
I might need to sip bourbon before I do that every time.
It's been a while since we've done it.
he like relaxed his jaw and everything. He was like,
I don't know if I was
ready for it.
Productions.
That one.
I could
hold
do
on,
that.
do it,
Hold
do it,
on,
do it.
hold on,
I'll
hold
do
on,
it.
hold on. I gotta find the.
smile too.
I gotta find the effects. Yeah, I gotta turn it down on everybody's but yours.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Hold on. Now I can do it.
Okay, wait.
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Now you know how we did the effect last year when I had to redo the
Jeez.
voice.
Nice. I like
If
it.
you watch our Halloween episode from last year, you'll know what the deformed voice came from.
Man,
Yeah.
That was it.
That's
It's like the
creepy.
kids say, that slaps.
Oh.
That's busted.
We should have-
Actually, that's for
busted.
food.
That
That's
is
for
for
food.
It can be for anything.
I think
can't
it's
it?
evolved now that it's no longer just about food, but I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
That's when you know it's been overused.
Yeah.
Bussin'.
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 We should have saved that for next week for Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Because next week is the week of
I
Halloween.
know. We got a big one for the Halloween
We got a big
review.
one. We
I'm
got-
excited about this one.
Two major. Well, we got one. Our final zombie flick, and
Yeah.
then we got the one major release, Venom.
Yeah,
Venom.
I wasn't talking about that. Venom was not the review I was talking about.
Did we review the first and second Venom?
Yes.
I don't know about the first one. We reviewed Let There Be
Oh, no,
Carnage.
we didn't review the first one, I think. I think me and Sean just saw that for whatever reason we
Yes.
saw that.
Yeah,
But-
because we like pain, I guess. I don't know.
It was better than Let There Be Carnage.
That's true.
But yeah.
The first one's been the best so far.
Our final zombie flick happens to be a classic from Romero himself.
Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead.
Mm.
Wait, hold on. Should I do it? Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
It's like we've already done Night of the Living Dead, so
Yeah.
now we get to move on to his second one. And
That's right.
I'm happy about that.
Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Keith Cheatham.
bye.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.